Hey, what's up? This is Sane. I'm doing a tutorial, no intros and no outros. Let's go straight into it, and we're going to make an automatic door. So I already pre-set up some logic to make this video a lot faster, so you can just go in and get the knowledge. So I set up a door kind of like Resident Evil. It was zero map, which is actually better. Okay, I didn't do any decoration, it's just an example. So make sure everything beside the door is decoration only, because the doors are going to be physics based. So if you're going to make some sort of door, you're going to have to make proper custom collisions everywhere, so you don't go through the walls. If you're making a first person game, or even if you're making a trials map, then you would have decoration only anyways. Alright, so let's get into it. The X, Y, and Z parameter just measures the door. It's like a measuring tool, so you know the distances, okay? You're going to have a interval trigger. Okay, set it 1 tick. This is a simple animation, so you just want to set it on X or whatever axis you want. And then make sure it's negative 235. The reason why it's on a variable data source, so it's an exact animation position. And make sure it's looping and invert second half, meaning that it goes the opposite direction, which we need. Alright, so here's the logic. Either you pretend that this blue ball is your rider, or it could be a first-person character. I have a first-person guide. You can watch that video if you want to set one up. Make sure this trigger is disable on hit is off. Make sure on active is to this one, and on leave is to this one. Okay? So on leave, it's going to turn on something, and it's going to turn on a door opening double looping sound source. Okay, and then yeah, and then make sure it's triggered by the character, the biker rider, or the first person character by triggered by, and then that's it. Make sure the box is big enough so that's the vicinity, which will the door act like a sensor. So that box right there is your sensor. It's almost like real life, where you have an automatic door. It reacts to the sensor. If the target's nearby, the door will open. If the target is out of range, the door will close. That's pretty much what the trigger box is doing. Now, the reason why it's physics on, so it makes it a lot easier. We kind of cheat it. Okay, make sure the reason why it's an automatic door, because it has to be within the vicinity of the physics bubble, or it's not going to work. So just a really alternate way. I've seen a lot of maps that even won contests that have shitty animation doors, and this is just a way to counteract that, to make a looping door. So you can go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. You won't be able to break it, and it works perfectly. That's basically what this setup is about, okay? Then we're going to have a trigger on this side and a trigger on this side. Make sure that both of these triggers are triggered by the door, okay? So, and make sure you measure it. So this door will go far enough to hit this to say stop animation. And then when it goes back into closing, it's going to hit this trigger box. Okay? Alright, normally it's going to be closed. Okay? So we can have it disabled for this one. Okay? And then we're going to have another script that says turn on the other trigger box, because we don't want this triggered box to be active. This is going to send off wrong inputs even though it's closed, if that makes a lot of sense. So we follow the impulse chain. Impulse chain ends here. So we're going to turn off this trigger. So when the player interacts with the door, okay, it's going to open the door. On active. This should be turning off. I don't know why it's not turning off. The on hit should turn this off. Okay, well then we're gonna turn this off. And then we're gonna turn this on. Okay, so when the door opens up, yeah. Okay, so this trigger box, what it's gonna do is you're gonna use a state event. It's gonna turn off this, and it's gonna turn off this because this is on active. The reason why it's on active, so you won't be able to cheat the door, like walk in and out and then glitch the door and then get stuck with the animation. So you're gonna turn off both of these so it turns off the sound effect in here. At the same time, it's going to turn on the stopper sound, and at the same time, it's going to turn off the looping sound. But it's also going to turn off both of these functionalities because the on-active trigger is constantly going, so it doesn't screw up the door, if that makes sense to you. And then for this trigger, and then it's going to turn on this trigger as well. Forget about that. It's going to turn on this trigger, so when we leave, the door will close, and then when it closes, it's going to turn off the animation. It's going to turn on the stopper sound again, and it's going to turn off the sound source again. On leave, right? And on active. Okay, so on active, it's going to turn on the animation. That's all it does. And on leave, it's going to turn on this. It's going to turn on this. Okay. And it's going to turn on the animation. And it's also going to share an impulse to turn on the looping. But then this one is going to turn off the looping. You see? So now we can play test it. You see that? So even if you try to cheat the sequence will just keep going the same way. Do you see what I'm saying? How the sound effects are always timed correctly? That is the logic script, and that's the logic script that I made here. So I'm going to take a screenshot of this. And this 10-minute tutorial will tell you how to make a perfect automatic door looping animation with a physics base door and an animation at the same time. And it's going to have two distinct trigger boxes for the on-off, the off doors from the closing positions. And it's going to do a bunch of state events and a bunch of triggers. And then you have the middle one, which is a sensor, has to be on active. So you can't cheat the sequence, cheat the sensor. So that is the best way to make an automatic door. It's actually even better than my Resident Evil 0 train FPS door, because there was like a slight glitch where the door will just open and close and open again. But I didn't do the on active, I just did an on hit. And if you do an on hit, it's going to do the same thing. What happens in RE? This is my RE0 remake, and then my controller disconnected. That's incredible. But yeah, hopefully this guide helped. I'm going to make maybe 1 or 2 more tutorials if I learn anything new in the editor. If you want to watch other tutorials, you can go back to Trials Fusion. It has similar things, and I have all the tutorials there, and you can watch it. Some of them have commentary and some of them do not. So I'm Saint Legend, and I'll see you on the next tutorial, and laters. Check out the music playlist that I'll link in the playlist. That's the background music. I use this music to build a lot of my builds, so thanks to the person who made the music, and give him a follow on SoundCloud, and I'm out. Laters.